Silly old board, thought Thomas. He had often tried to pass it, but had never succeeded. But this morning he had made a plan. The fireman went to throw the switch. Now for my plan, thought Thomas. Bumping the cars fiercely, he jerked his driver off the footplate and followed them into the siding. "Come back!" yelled his driver. "Fire and smoke," said Thomas. "I'm sunk."
There are tons of classic Thomas and Friends episodes. Either The Flying Kipper, Thomas Gets Tricked, James in a Mess, Percy Runs Away, A Close Shave for Duck, James and the Red Balloon, or Escape, all being episodes we remember or heard of. One of my favorite Thomas and Friends episodes is Down the Mine, when Thomas ignored the danger sign and went straight past it and fell down into a mine. Thomas told Sir Topham Hatt that he wouldn't do it again. Then later, Gordon comes to the rescue and pulls him out of the mine and helps him home. What a lot of people may not know is that these episodes are based on real true events that happened in real life, especially the real true story of Down the Mine. For those who never heard of the real story of Down the Mine, let's get into details about it, shall we? This episode is based on the Lindale Railway incident from September 22nd, 1892. It happened on Thursday. A 7 a.m. morning goods train involving a locomotive 115D class was stopped in a siding at Lindale-in-Furness when its driver Thomas Postlethwaite realized that the ground beneath the locomotive was collapsing. He shut off steam and both he and the fireman jumped clear from the engine. The ground opened 30 feet wide and 30 feet deep. The locomotive fell into the hole front first and the tender remained on the surface. The rails snapped off and the tracks on the two main lines either side of it were partially left suspended over the hole. Passenger trains passing the area made passengers disembark from their coaches and walk around the hole while the coaches were carefully rolled past unstable pieces of track. People were flocked to see the hole, and police and railway staff had a hard time keeping people back. Some onlookers spread rumors that a whole passenger train had gone into the hole and many were killed or injured. It was untrue, but it kept people staring at the mess in wonder. Breakdown gangs would successfully uncouple and pull clear a tinder, but the locomotive being 35 tons alone, getting it out would be a tremendous task. At 2:30 p.m., the men working on clearing the locomotive would take a short break from refreshments, and then they tried to pull the locomotive out, and however, the chasm got deeper again to 60 feet with the locomotive falling in further, buried by dirt. Sadly, the locomotive remains under the ground at that spot to this day. Witnesses were awestruck to see a machine disappear so quickly from their sight, falling to an unknown depth and beyond recovery. The hole was even wider by then, with all 8 tracks now twisted and bent, the ballast having fallen away, the sidings which were now unsafe to use. Goods and mineral traffic were a major source of revenue such as coal coke for the ironworks at Barrow, so it was vital that it be made stable as possible. Trainloads of ballast arrived and were brought to the hold to fill the hole. It took 300 wagon loads of ballast and re-leveled the rest of the tracks until a solid foundation was established. The area was known to be affected by subsidence as trains were explicitly instructed to slow down while passing over that part of the line, and other nearby fields were heavily affected by land subsidence too, with a farmhouse having to be abandoned for this reason. There were also 2 levels of mine beneath the part of the line that collapsed. The upper level was abandoned, but workers on the lower level could hear the engines passing overhead and predicted there would possibly one day be an accident. It's suspected that the area had a large deposit of sand beneath it and that an underground stream had washed it away. It rained heavily and flooded a few days before the accident happened. The mines also had a history of caving in, only further helped weaken the land, rather humorously the engine. Like I said, still remains under the ground at that spot to this day. Wow, Thomas, you're lucky. After Thomas makes his mistake in this episode, he does not fall completely into the mine. If he fell further down into the mine and never recovered, The show would end and I would be very sad about it, and that would probably have been the very last episode ever to be made, and I would probably have not known too much about Thomas and Friends, really. In this episode, Thomas was crying and felt sorry for what he did, and Sir Topham Hatt was talking firmly to Thomas. He wasn't being mean, he was trying to help Thomas, and that's why he said they cannot lift him out with a crane because the ground was not firm enough. He doesn't want to see Thomas be gone forever. I am really a big enthusiast of the real stories of Thomas and Friends episodes. If there are any more Thomas and Friends episodes I should do a real story video on, let me know in the comments below.